Send that energy. Yes, I. Come on, y'all can do better than that. Come on. Yes, I can feel it already. Don't get me started. I'm already started. Okay, and a special shout out to King Simon, because he's part of this whole vibration that we're doing here at Nicholas, Brooklyn. All right, so we had Professor James Small dropping the science about spirituality and how we can use it in everyday life. And now we're welcoming to the panel Brother KABA. Thank you. Okay, family.
It is really good to be here once again in Nicholas, and when I heard Sister Kafunya talk about 50 years, I remember when I was going down to Nicholas Bookstore when they were on 17th and Broadway, working with Nicholas, you know, and I was with Community School District 9, and I had a resource center, and the flags and all of the different images of Africa and the Caribbean and here in the United States, we were able to decorate our entire piece. And the one thing I most appreciated was that I could put money in the hands of black folk. And that became very important to me as I moved along. So I just celebrate. I probably started going there probably about 1990. And from that point on, I've been going there. And then they went to 125th Street.
Remember when they were downtown Brooklyn?
Well, no, I don't remember downtown Brooklyn. Going back that far? Yeah, because I remember Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
Right around the corner from Barnes and Noble.
Oh, right,
on
right.
17th
That's
and
where they
Broadway.
moved to.
That's when I started.
Yeah.
This would have been like 1989, 1990, where I would go and I would just, and I worked the system. You know, I learned how to work the budget system of the Board of Education.
Okay.
And you know, it's interesting because everybody was talking about multicultural education, which had its place. But I'm talking about multicultural when you're talking about green. You're talking about money. And putting money in the hands of us. And so that's what I attempted to do while I was there. So I thank my sister Kafunya for inviting me once again to be here and to just share this space. I've been here a number of times. And I've always appreciated coming here. And of course, you know, to my brother Lloyd Strayhorn, who I remember when the Apollo Theater used to have the radio station, WLIB.
Wow, that's a
Gary Bird, yeah. And you know, I remember when Gary Bird couldn't do it, the grandmother of hip hop, Sister Camille Yarborough, used to come in.
Wow.
And I remember my first time on the Apollo stage. You know, James Brown is the one performer I've seen the most in my lifetime. I never missed him, particularly when he came to the Apollo. And you know, when you're in the audience looking up at that stage, you know, you think about you being on that stage. And I remember it was in probably 1993. It was July of 1993. My wife Shari and our children, this was before our son was born, went to Jamaica to visit her home and her family. And I remember the plane was stopped, and for a long period of time. And all of a sudden the pilot came over. This is July of 1994. I know, Brother Small, you will remember this. Because he said, we can't take off because there's a plane coming in from Ghana with Dr. Leonard Jeffries.
Wow.
They stopped the airport when Dr. Jeffries came in 94. And I'm telling you this because I was on the plane that couldn't take off for Jamaica. Okay, this was how powerful his return. Because just before that was when they had attacked him for what he said at Empire State College. So there was a lot of controversy. He was out. I think you were on that trip too.
No, I was on. That was me, and why they had a problem at the airport is because I took over the airport.
Okay, well then now that's you involved. He took over the airport, and they stopped all the flights.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember we were waiting. But before that, Gary Bird was on the trip, I believe, and they had asked me if I would be on the LIB as an interview.
Okay.
But Camille Yarborough was the one that called and asked if I would be on, and I remember that I was on, and to my left was Dr. Adelaide Sanford, and to my right was Dr. Edward Scobie. And that was my first time at the Apollo Theater on stage.
Wow.
Well, that was the only time I've ever been on stage. But I could not have kept better company than to be between Sister Adelaide Sanford and Dr. Edward Scobie. And we were talking about what was happening to Dr. Jeffrey. This was the Monday before I left. So I'm putting all of this in context to help us understand the power that we have as a people. And as I've been observing over these past few months, let's say, few years, we are a very powerful people. And I don't know if we realize how in control we are of everything that happens, even though we may not be in control of our own self. We control what's going on, whether we realize it or not. And I just think that we have to understand, as we move forward, how great we really are. And as I interact with children, because I visit schools, and I work with children, and then I work with the staff in the afternoon, and then I do parental involvement. Because family, if we don't involve the parents in what we do in the community, you may have the most wonderful program of culture in the school. But if it's not at the home, it's like they live in the oasis in school, but they return to the desert when they go home. So whatever we do, we have to involve the community and the parents. And there's a difference, because the parents are the ones that have the investment in the school, but the community is the active involving where they come in contact with the children every day. So it becomes, and please, you know, I can deal with this. Okay, I grew up, I taught 31 years in the Board of Ed. 31 years I taught in the Board of Ed. And I've been around children all of my life. And I've learned, and particularly if you teach middle school. If you teach middle school, you have to learn how to be out-talked, over-talked, and talked through. So if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me, because I can move right through this. But family, we are at a point now where this is a very, very interesting time in history. Very interesting time in history. And if you want to get the base of what I'm saying, then I'd encourage you to Google an article in the New York Times, and it's dated June 20th, 2018, where they are in 2018 now. Remember what you're dealing with in 2018. This is pre-pandemic. There was an article written by Sabrina Tavernise, Tavernise, Sabrina. It's June 20th, 2018. Written by Sabrina Tavernise, and she is reporting that in the United States, 26 states out of the 50, there are more people dying, white people dying, than being born. Okay, we're talking demographics now, which is the study of populations, the science of populations. Now, I'm not saying this emotionally, I'm just saying this from another type of perspective, because family, we have to get ourselves together. I'm not saying what I'm saying like I'm happy it's happening.
No.
Might be a little wishful thinking, but
Right.
you know, like I'm not here celebrating it using that as the main point, okay? But what I'm saying is that if that does happen, are we prepared to look at our brother work, Neely Fuller, where he identifies 9 areas that we have to look at? And with due respect to my brother Neely Fuller, I add a 10th. He talks about it in the book, but he doesn't make it one of the 9 major areas. And I use an acronym: REL, SEL, WEP, REL, WEP. And then I add H and N. The R stand, and what he's basically saying is that these are the umbrella areas that as black folk, we need to get ourselves together. We have to look at this, and we have to begin to develop ourselves and understand what it is that we have to do. Okay? Religion is the R. We have to get all of our spiritual leaders. Makes no difference what religion you're in. Be you from agnostic to Zoroastrian, from A to Z. We need to bring all of our spiritual leaders together and begin to determine what it is that our people need in order to move forward into the future. And it's not about proselytizing. It's not about trying to get them to join your religion. It's about how can your spiritual system promote the emancipation and liberation of black people worldwide. The first E is economics. We have to bring our Dr. Claude Andersons and our sister Karen Hunters and the countless numbers of economists together and begin to strategize a plan. And you know, by the way, what I'm saying probably is already happening. But what I'm attempting to do now in terms of talking to this and backing up what it is I'm going to say, and also what I'd like to do with us this afternoon, this evening. The first L is labor. So you have religion, economics, and then you have labor. Okay? How are we going to control how we hire? Dr. Amos Wilson used to always say, a good organization meets its people's needs and solves its people's problems. Why should our children respect us if every time they need something, they go to somebody else? What is it that we offer them? I'm not talking about the parental, the love and things like that. I'm talking about labor, how to hire our own people. Because everybody want to be multicultural until it comes to black people. Okay, and then black people are supposed to be multicultural. Okay, we hire everybody else. Send their children to college. I am black first. Period. At the end of the sentence. Done. And it's not that I'm anti anybody else. I'm just about us. And I'm not going to say I'm unapologetic. And I'm not going to say I'm unashamed, because I have nothing to be ashamed of and I have nothing to apologize for. You looking out for your own, we got to look out for our own. Labor. And if you're wondering how to start, hire the people in your family. That's what I've been doing since my grandson's mother was a child. Sister Ma, you remember I used to bring him to the per onc, and I gave him 15%. That's how, you see, my older daughter, my grandson's mother is a banker. See, because I had her thinking money when she was 5 years old. Because she was figuring out 15% of what she just made. You know, so she had that money on the mind and mind on the money. In order to do it, now I understand money is an illusion, but it also serves certain purposes in terms of keeping our stores open, keeping our vendors in place. But when that happens above and beyond our own people every day, then we have a challenge. So labor is another area that Neely Fuller covered. Then when we get into the cell, S-E-L, the S, I have a challenge with the word itself, not because it doesn't apply, but because of what it might imply. Sex. Because when people hear the word sex, they think of things. I consider it gender issues. Okay? Brothers and sisters, we got to get our psychologists, psychiatrists, and social workers together. And we need healing. People build nations. Families build dynasties. Nations rise and fall, but dynasties last forever. When you put it in the family, and you keep it in the family, it is the family is to the dynasty what the cell is to the body. It's that core that everything else has its health. Gender issues. Just coming from a black male program down at the Restoration Center with the brothers there. Very active, very involved. Young, middle, elders. Brothers, we have to talk. Okay? And quite frankly, brothers, we need to have a big cry for all we've been through. You know, that ugly in the face cry. See, sisters can't come. Because we need that ugly in the face cry. That boo-hoo cry. For what this society has done. Systematically. And yet we keep it all in. And so we got to get together and have these types of conversations with ourselves where we can come to a conclusion as to where we need to go as it relates to the male and the female. Because we have to understand the power of the system. No civilization is going anywhere if the sisters are not equal to the process. Nobody's going anywhere. And that's why this Babylon system is falling. It is just the way things work. You know, throughout it all, that male-female relationship is nothing more powerful than black love. I think I heard Sister Frances Cress Wilson say that. You know, they're trying to destroy the black family because they know what would happen if it ever got strong. That's it. It's over. And so that gender issue, or what he calls sex, is important. Then you have the lane that I believe I'm in, and that's education. We need to get all the educators together. And we need to begin to develop a curriculum. Okay, a curriculum that is applicable to us as a people. And the other day, in fact, brother, I think the brother said that the other day when I said that I don't write books, I write curriculum. Well, and by the way, Dr. Jeffries was the one that okayed this when he worked in. I worked in Community School District 9, and I had gone to commit with Dr. Ben and the group in 1983. And I know Brother James and I were together in 1987 at the Nubian Conference. But in 1984, a year after I came back from Kemet, I went to Mexico with Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. And that experience just blew my mind. And I remember the first night that Dr. Van Sertima was talking to us, he said, I have to erase all the nonsense that's been written on the chalkboards of your mind in order to teach you the truth and write it on this board. And when he said that, that clicked with me as it relates to our children. And that's why I was an early childhood teacher. My primary license is in kindergarten. I was a kindergarten teacher. Can you imagine this brother? Sitting cross-legged, reading books to 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds. They absolutely loved it. You know, like when I was talking to the brothers, I was telling them, I'm on a crusade for black male teachers. Because I could write a book on my experiences with children that said to me, you remind me of my daddy, you look like my daddy, can I call you daddy? And my response was, I am your daddy. Because it's the African tradition that every adult male in the community is Baba, and every adult female is Mama. I may not have brought you into the world, but when you're in my presence, I am responsible for your well-being. When you know, like around 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, we as teachers take our children to the bathroom. We had a sister that used to help me take, because listen, when I used to go to kindergarten teachers conferences, not only was I the only black person in the room, I was the only man in the room. And everybody looking at me. And I'm just looking at the room, looking at me. I'm on a crusade for black. The impact that we have with our children, if we never open our mouth, just them seeing us up there. Image is everything for black folk because we are visual people. And then my fundamental greatest advantage was that they could pick up, I really love them. I enjoy being in the room. They could tell it was a pleasure for me to be in that room. Just like, hey, listen, how you see how I'm feeling with you? Imagine a 4-year-old child, a 5-year-old child with someone in the room that knows that they care. When I used to take them to the bathroom, I would have to walk down the hall, and you know, you put the children in size place, normally from the shortest to the tallest. But I couldn't do it because the children wanted to spend some time holding my hand going down. So I'd be in the front and my aide would be in the back, and I'd be in the front and I'd hold the hands. Okay, now the next day, the second group behind them, they had to go to the end of the line, and then I had to hold the hand of the next one. Because our children some of them, many of them, don't know what it's like, what a black man's grip feels like. Sisters, you have done a phenomenal job in raising us. But brothers, we have to balance this off. They have to feel what it's like to hold a black man's hand. And to look at them and to talk to them. Just that alone is education. They learn so much just from that. I'm on a crusade to bring black men into the system. Because you know it's about to go, right? With them vouchers are coming now. Vouchers are good. They don't mean us any good. But vouchers are good because the schools that are running their own centered schools will have the money now from the children that will go to their schools. So I ain't got a problem with vouchers. Because I can tell you now, I was the spook who sat by the classroom door. I watched this collapse. Back in the early 90s, they recruited me. I had a resource center. I was director of social studies. And we had 35 schools in our district in the Bronx. 27 elementary and 8 middle schools. And I created the social studies program and the cultural program for these 35 schools. And I started a resource center in one of the schools. And they came to us and they said, we went to a meeting, they said, well, we have an idea for what we call new visions, a new vision school. So I said, oh, okay. They said, you have a resource center here and we'd like to develop ideas that you have as it relates to having a math resource center or having a language arts resource center. You have the social studies, you know, and you know, we can have it in the 4 major areas: language arts, math, science, and social studies. So they said, we'd like you to come and help us, guide us as to how we develop it. So what they did is they brought community school organizations together, CBOs, community-based organizations, and they brought in different types of organizations, churches in the community in the Bronx, and everything was good. Okay. But I was saying to them, I said, there's something going on. Okay? They're not telling us, but they have a plan. New visions. So we came, shared ideas. They applied for the New Vision School. Some of them got it, some of them didn't. And then all of a sudden, they started talking about charter schools. And I said, that's what was in the back burner, charter schools. Because you see, public cannot sell to private, but state can. See, so they segued from New Vision into charter, which is state, and then charter started getting all the private institutions to start charter schools. Okay? So that's what we're watching. There are some good charter schools, by the way. I've been to some really good charter schools, okay? Everybody chasing them down, but I've been to good charter schools. Public school system is an interesting system, started by us, but I saw them in the background doing this. And one of the things that I always stress to people is I never change my lane. I stay in my lane. Education is my lane. Of the areas that I'm telling you, I try to stay in education. I have an idea about spirituality. I have an idea about the different areas, labor and things like that. But I stay in education because I have to tell you, my brother, Ben Carson, taught me a lesson. When I was an 8th grade language arts teacher, I used his book, Gifted Hands.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember that Gil Noble interviewed him on the program Like It Is. And see, I got a thing for Beethoven, another black man. I like classical music. I know a lot of us think that that's other people's music. No. We took the harp, brought it into Europe, turned it sideways, encased it in wood, combined it with the kalimba, the finger piano, and the xylophone, and that created the piano. We don't know our history. And so we think that because they did it, we don't know. Okay, Beyonce come out with a country album, everybody get up there. How dare she do a country? You don't even know country music started with black folk.
Right.
White folk don't play banjo, black folk did. And you know, they really, you know, I tell them, I ain't even gonna argue with you about this. Dr. Clark used to always say, you know, to have a debate, you're gonna have two sides. You ain't got a side.
Right.
But Dr. Ben Carson, as brilliant a brain surgeon as he was, he taught me a very powerful lesson. And the lesson that he taught me was that you can be an absolute genius in one area. But if you cross lanes, you can become an absolute fool. He taught me that. Because as I watched him develop himself in the political field, and I began to listen to some of the things that he's saying, like, no, man. You know, if you were going to retire from brain surgery, I understand that, okay? But find something, because you can be good in another lane. I'm not saying you can't be good in multiple lanes, but if you find yourself not good in a lane, get out. Because people will remember you for the last thing you did, and not all those children you separated their brains. The L, the second L, is law. Okay? Law. We have to bring our Alton Maddoxes. Wow. A warrior at law and a lawyer at law. We have to bring that type of mindset, and we got to combine them with the Moorish law system. Because the Moors have a very good law system. When you go back to the original concept of the Moors and what they developed, our lawyers that are going to law school should be not only knowledgeable in that law, but they should also be knowledgeable in Moorish law. And if any of you would like a book, you can get a free copy. Go on there and get you Black's Law Dictionary. Just get that. I got about 9 different ones. They keep upping it every year. But law, we have to become familiar at law. When you sitting in the court, the judge say, do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, Your Honor, I do. You're guilty. No, Your Honor, I don't understand. He said, okay, you go back with your lawyer and let your lawyer explain. So you go back with your lawyer explains, this is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. You come back out. Judge says, you understand why you're here? No, I don't. I have no idea why I'm here. I don't understand what he said.
Now you understand.
That can tangle things. Because that's how the law works.
That's right.
You see how people get away with stuff in law nowadays? I mean, you can be accused of all sorts of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Look at our president.
It's just the way it is. So law, and then WEP, W-E-P, war, security. We need to go back to the Deacons of Defense. We have to go back to the Black Panther Party. We have to go back to all of the community organizations that protected us, because family, you can have all the wealth in the world, but if you can't protect it, you're only holding on to it until someone else stronger come along and snatch it. You got to protect what you have. And if you can't protect yourself, you don't have it. And we just have to look very seriously at these concepts. And let folk know, you may get in, but you're not getting out.
Yeah, that's right.
Just don't bother me. Leave me alone. The third E is entertainment. We have to take back entertainment. We have to create entertainment in the arts, in music, in dance, in sports. You know, sports was born out of African military science. And out of that, they train young people for military science. And then that became, as time went on, the Olympics. Olu, the word Olu. If you go to Yoruba, Oludumare, Olu means the mountain. That's where they got Mount Olympus from. Yeah, that's where it came from. It's very real. So even the word Olympics came from Nigeria.
Come on, speak out loud.
See, we don't understand the connection that we have on the African continent. At one time, all of the river systems were connected. Okay, and then through drying and through the earth shifting, they came up and then rivers were separated. But at one time, Hapi was connected to Congo, was connected to Limpopo, connected to Orange, connected to Senegal, connected to Congo River. They were all connected. That's how Africans traveled across the entire continent, was through the water systems, through the rivers and through the ponds and through the tributaries. And if you look at the Olympics, look at what you're doing in the Olympics. It's all military. The javelin is the spear. The discus, throwing rocks at each other. Running, wrestling, boxing. It's all military. That's where sports came from. Was through the practice of the military arts. Which then African nations had competitions. And in the competitions, they vied for who would win. I see what you're thinking.
Teach them.
You know, children are absorbing.
Yeah.
You know, they absorb. They're beautiful human beings. They learn to become crazy. But they're born pure. Yeah, hey, you want to know about yourself? Hang around some 5-year-olds. They'll tell you about yourself.
They have no compunction.
No, and they're pure. They're not trying to hurt you.
That's what they see, they say.
You know, when I taught kindergarten, you don't make much. At that time when I was first teaching in the late 70s, you don't make a lot of money being a teacher. And so things happen. And I remember I was teaching my kindergarten class one time. And I remember I felt something on my foot. And you see, I had a hole in my shoe. And one of my kindergarten children was sticking their finger in my shoe. Holiday season comes around. She said, "Here, this is for you." My mommy, she bought me a pair of shoes.
Wow.
She went home and told the family, "My teacher had hole in his shoes."
Wow.
These are the type of experiences that you have with our children. They're beautiful people, and family, they're ready. They're ready. The question is, are we ready? And I remember some of my students now who are parents and grandparents contact me on Facebook, contact me on Instagram, and they say, I had a teacher that looked like you in the first grade, and he taught me Kiswahili. But his name wasn't KAMENE. His name was Mr. Coleman. Are you the same person? And I said, yeah, I'm the same person. I was one time walking along the Grand Concourse. Grand Concourse is like Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, wide street. And I remember I was standing on the corner and I heard some voices. Jambo means hello. Kwaheri means goodbye. Bowana means Mr. and Bibi means Ms. And I looked over and everybody was waving at me. And these were students of mine
Wow.
that I had taught Kiswahili.
Wow.
And they came across the street and they said, "We didn't remember your name, but we remember that song." That's how deep the culture goes.
Yeah.
Because I learned my first words in Kiswahili in Black Panther meetings. That's where I learned my Kiswahili.
And look at how many years went by, but they didn't remember your name, but they remember the moment.
And that is because of the visual. It's because of the music. You see, names are something that are ubiquitous. But when you get that rhythm going on, and you see, like, I don't sound like Luther Vandross when I sing. So my students used to say, well, if he got enough nerve to sing like that, everybody sing. You should have heard what some of them songs sounded like. But I gave them the courage, because if I had gone off like Luther Vandross, you know, then maybe some of them might have been a little hesitant to want to sing because they'd be concerned that they might not sound like that. But they said, if Mr. Coleman sound like that, I know I can do it. But this is what we did in our classrooms. And this is what our children remember of us. Very powerful. These are the memories. Sister asked me, what is the one thing that keeps me going doing this work? And Brother James, I'm sure it's for you too. It's success. It's not always trying to get there. I know the success. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I was in the district that was the most challenged district in the city, Community District 9. Then when I moved my resource center into a school out of the district office, I moved it into the most challenged school. Because I said to myself, if I can have success here, this program works. I had students come in to my classroom and they dyed their hair red and came in and said, can you let me eat in here because the Crips are after me outside.
Wow.
He a blood.
Oh.
He dyed his hair red. And all the blues were looking for him. Students. He couldn't eat in the lunchroom because the blue was going to get the red. I said, but why did you dye your hair red?
Yeah.
He said, because I'm a blood. Okay. Sit down. Listen, this is middle school.
Yeah, man.
Okay, this is who I'm dealing with. They're honest. They'll tell you. Yeah, I dye my hair red. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But can I have lunch in your room? Critical thinking skills. Wow. And then, of course, the P of rel, cell, wep is politics. We have to bring our politicians. Now, my thing is, Malcolm taught us that Democrats are sly foxes and Republicans are wolves. But they both belong to the dog family. And Congressman Adam Clayton Powell told us that one of the dirtiest words in the English language is liberal. And I've never forgotten that in the political. We have to home grow our politicians. They have to come from inside the community, from young. We have to expose them to governance, to the characteristics of Ma'at, truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, arrangement, and my favorite, reciprocity. There's a brother, I think I have some books on, the brother wrote a series on Ma'at for children. And he asked me to help him. And he said, which is your favorite? I'd like to, you know, he dedicated it to somebody that had meaning. He asked me, which one did you want? And I told him reciprocity. Because reciprocity is my favorite characteristic, because reciprocity separates the chaff from the wheat. Reciprocity. Would you treat another human being? Would you treat nature the way you treat nature? If you knew that how you treated them was going to come back on you. Would you? Would you enslave another person? And sometimes what come back on you is 7 times what you did. Would you do it? And so that's what separates people that are real from unreal, because there are certain things that if you thought that it was going to come back on you, you wouldn't do it. And if you did it even thinking that it was going to come back on you, then you're crazy. And so I can't deal with either one of you. Because I'm getting out your way. Because if you inflict pain on somebody, and that pain going to come back on you, I had to step to the side. And just you know, you got to move over, because when that lightning bolt come, I don't want it to mistake you for me, or me for you. Governance. is something that we have to look at. And we have to do it in our schools. And the way I did it in our schools was that when we first came back from school, we did a governance. I taught them the principles of Ma'at. I taught them how to write, how to speak. And what they did is that we had our own political system. The class was sick because one thing that a lot of our children don't know, and some adults either, don't know the difference between city government, state government, and federal government. Okay, they don't understand. All politics is local. And the children understood that because the class was the city. The grade was the grade was the state, and the school was the federal. And most of the children came to realize most of the important things that was going to happen to them happened to them in the class. So therefore, local government. And they would hire, we'd have a mayor of the class, we'd have the governor of the grade, and we'd have the president of the school. And we taught them how to govern. We also created like a Congress that made the laws for the class, because I'm not going to get in. Okay? And we created a Supreme Court, a court system that made the rules of the class. So therefore, if you broke a rule, I didn't have to punish you. Your class punished you, because you're the one made the rule. I'm just here to facilitate what's going to happen to you. In all of my career, I never called a parent. Nor did I ever put a child in detention. It's not because they didn't do anything. It's that because if you think, if you're going to do the right thing because you're afraid of your mother or your grandmother or your father, or you're afraid that you're going to go to detention, I am preparing you for prison. I used to tell my students, I'm talking about them roughnecks, okay? You used to call me all sorts of things. It's okay. The idea was, you have to do the right thing because it's the right thing. That's ma'at. You do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because you're afraid of the consequence. Because if I train you to be afraid of the consequence, I'm preparing you for prison, and I'm just going to make you a smart student like you're a smart criminal.
Right, right.
You're still going to do it, but you're going to find a way to do it. And so for our children, this is how we can begin to develop. This curriculum came out of my trips to KAMENE, my 2 trips to KAMENE, and my trip to Mexico in 1984. And it is bounded by my study of the way in which the original ancestors, the original human beings, and family, I'm saying this because I'm staying away from saying African. Because Africans didn't call themselves Africans. They were cosmic, earthly beings. And what they put in place was a fundamental law of nature guided by the principles of nature. And so the way in which they were taught dealt with that concept. It didn't deal with, because first of all, when African people started schools, was nobody else in the classroom. So they didn't say this is African-centered, because everybody in the room was African. Now today, I call it African-centered, because you stole our legacy. So although I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it anyway, because I got the copyright. You ain't playing with me. So I'm only playing the game because the game got to be played. But even at this is not an African-centered curriculum. This is a Ma'atian curriculum. Okay, based on the principles of nature, of the Meru, or the pyramids. It is based on the soil that was made. How did they go from making dirt pyramids, clay, from the earth? How did they go to limestone? What was it that brought that over? Okay, and when everybody's trying to take credit, including aliens, for building of the pyramid, okay, you can actually see how the pyramids progressed through trial and error. If somebody from outer space had come down to build a pyramid, there'd be no mistake on any of the pyramids. They would have come with the preconceived notion and wisdom and knowledge of how to build a pyramid. But you can see when you go to the Bent Pyramid, when you go to Dashur, when you go to Senefrus, you can see the graduation from Imhotep to the perfect pyramid. But even the perfect pyramid is still a step pyramid, because it was the math that created the perfect pyramid. Because if you were to Xerox the pyramid of Khufu, you would see inside it's a step. But when Imhotep dropped the knowledge in science and math on how to build a step pyramid, he used a mathematical concept known as finding the slope, which is y equals mx plus b. Okay? And what they did is that, okay, you have this step, and each one gets smaller. However, if the run to rise ratio of the run to the rise to the run to the rise, even though the pyramids may have gotten smaller as they went up, if the proportion was the same, then they would have the same calculation. And that is where a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 1,000 years before Pythagoras. Because his name wasn't Pythagoras, his name was Ptah. The mound builder. There's science. There's not person. So you can see it. You can understand it. And then you can understand how they could have built that pyramid and why they built the pyramid as it relates to the constellations in the heavens. Okay. That's a lesson plan that I have in here, along with coming to America and demonstrating how. And you know, there are some people of indigenous population that challenge me, and I understand. I did a presentation one time, and I think the whole Onondaga Nation was in the audience. And they questioned me, and I said, okay, I am not denying you your roots. You are a racist. Because you're not embracing the African base of who you are as an American. You think you came over here first. You didn't come over here first. In fact, you were the 5th migration that came over here in large population. The first was the Twa and Mbuti, Khoisan. And chances are America was peopled in South America first. Probably the Khoisan of Southern Africa probably took the Benguele current and ended up in the Amazon River. That's probably how the first human beings came to America, through South America. The Twa and Mbuti Khoisan, short stature people we derogatorily call pygmy. Now family, I can talk a very long time, so I want someone to be able to control how long I'm talking, because it's 7 o'clock right now, and I don't want to mess with nobody's time. But you know, I have billions of years to cover in just an afternoon.
You're doing very good covering.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Coming from you is an honor, my brother.